I recently wrapped up my epic trilogy of videos on the British Airways Executive Club, the changes that are happening from the 1st of April, shifting from a distance and cabin based model to a revenue based model or a price based model. You can check those videos out. On the last one, I said that was it, no more finito. It's over, the trilogy's finished. As everybody knows, you don't make a fourth film. It's never as good, so I'm not going to make a fourth video. So this is not a video on the Executive Club changes, I promise you. What this is a video for Eve from Speedwell Travel, who suggested I maybe pull together some ideas on boosting Avios points. Now, Avios points obviously different to tier points. We're not going to talk about tier points at all. This is just Avios. The reason I am talking about Avios is because one of my tips on the final video was that part payment, so using Avios to part pay for your holidays on British Airways, you still get the full allocation of tier points. I said I wasn't going to talk about tier points. This is just context. It's context. I'm not talking about tier points. So it was the idea of how best can we boost our Avios points in order to offset some of the cost whilst getting all of those things that I'm not going to say. Okay, so there is quite a lot to get through. The first thing is that I am not an Avios expert. In fact, trying to do some research, some people pronounce it Avios. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing it correctly. I'm going to stick with Avios though, and if I'm wrong, then it's not going to be the first time. Not going to be the last time. I spent 40 years pronouncing the S in this word, Grosvenor, until someone said to me, no, it's Grosvenor, you don't pronounce the S, which was a little bit stupid of me. Anyway, so I am not an expert in Avios, but I've done a bit of research to try and find out what the best hacks are. I am going to start out with a foundation level, which will help you create and escalate. And then we're going to go on some smaller ones that will give you a few boosters here and there. But when we're going to move up the ranks, we're going to get to the big hitters where you are going to see some serious Avios boosting. So stick around towards the end of the video or just fast forward if you don't want to listen to the smaller ones. I'm going to set myself some parameters, some goals. I'm going to try to get our Avios points boosted as high as we can without any additional spend. So this is how to ramp up your Avios without spending any more money if we can. And I'm going to take a couple of presumptions there just because it's really simple maths for me. So this is not representative of spend or how much you should be spending or anything like that. It's just numbers for me. So I'm going to base it on £10,000 of spend, £10,000 of BA spend on holidays, that's flights and hotels being booked together. Also, I'm going to assume for £5,000 for additional spend, whether that's related to transport costs, excursions, all these sort of things, which we'll come on to. So let's buckle up and start off with number one. Leveraging your status. Yes, if you have any status with British Airways, even blue, you will earn Avios points. Now, the way the system works is if you're a blue member, you'll get 6 Avios for every pound you spend. Bronze, 7 Avios. Silver, 8 Avios points. And then gold, 9 Avios points. So let's stick with the basics. I'm going to say go with silver because it's nice and simple, nice, easy in the middle. So if you're a silver member, we talked about that £10,000. So off the bat, if I'm silver, I'm going to get 80,000 points, 80,000 Avios points for that £10,000 spend. I am going to keep a tally up here of the Avios points that we are racking up so we can see at the end just how much we can get boosted. Get boosters. Have we ever heard that before? Number 2 is the bonus payment for British Airways holidays. So under the current system, at least, if you book a flight and hotel, you book a package, not only do you get those Avios points anyway, but at the end of it, you'll get the value of that as a bonus. So let's say you spend £1,500 on, like we did going to Athens, you come back, you get a 1,500 Avios bonus on top of the Avios you earn already. You'll see a couple of examples here from my recent travels. That 1,530 point at the top is the bonus payment for the holidays. You'll see it's on top of the 3,000 plus tier points I got for flying. This is Denver, meanwhile. That 10,553 point is for the flight, and the 3,679 is the bonus payment for the holiday. So the total value of the break. So let's assume we are spending that £10,000. So another 10,000 on top of that, and we're going to get to 90,000 by spending that through British Airways holidays. Number three is consolidating your incremental expenses. That is a rather garbled way of just saying that £10,000 we spent on holidays, which was for flights and hotels, we have that separate £5,000 that we also spend while on holiday. So, is there any way we can shift that £5,000 into Avios points? We can't do it on tier points because BA don't let you do that spend. You do earn Avios. So, if you go to the booking section of BA when you're booking, you can order taxis, you can book experiences, which means if we lump in our transfers and our tours, I'm going to say £2,000. So £2,000 equals 2,000 Avios. And don't forget, we're silver members, so 2,000 times 8 is 16,000 points. Let's add that to the tally then, and boom, we've broken the 100,000 Avios points barrier without spending any extra money. Number four is utilizing the Avios program. Avios is obviously much more than British Airways and its partner alliances. And looking at the list of providers, there is a ton of them. And not only that, I have probably left a ton of Avios points on the table over the years. I shudder to think how many, but it doesn't matter. That's gone. I can't change it. But what we can change is the future. So have a look at all the options, and there is many of them. Uber, booking.com, you've got travel insurance, you've got so many things out. I'm not going to go through all this and try and work out the Avios for these because obviously each one's different and they have different options and offers and all that sort of stuff. But let's assume that other £3,000 we're having, let's just dump it into our partners on the Avios scheme and add another 3,000 Avios. Could be more, but let's just play simple. And 3,000 Avios for exploiting the rest of the program. We're going to stick with the affiliate program for number five, and that is channel your expenses through affiliate companies. When I'm saying expenses, I'm thinking Christmas, I'm thinking birthdays, I'm thinking any big work like renovations or tech upgrades, because if you look at the list, it is just amazing. It's just so many potentials to really ramp up those Avios points. You've got Apple, so you're going to go and buy a new iPhone or an iPad or whatever. You've got John Lewis, you've got Harvey Nichols, you've got restaurants, you've got the fashion brands, you've got so many different ones. And if you look at all the different equations, you might get 5, 7, 10, 12 Avios points per £1 spent. Now, this is going to be really hard to calculate because everyone's different in terms of their consumer spend. So I'm going to, let's do something relatively moderate, in which case we'll do, say, let's do with the £10,000 over the course of a year. Again, more so for my maths. So £10,000 you might spend on all this tech, on presents, on eating out, all those sort of things. Do a conservative ratio of 5 points per pound spent, so £10,000. That's 50,000 points we can add. Now, I don't know whether there are certain caps on spend on here. So here's a disclaimer. If I've got that wrong, then someone could let me know. But just having a look at the info, I couldn't find anything. Again, I might be wrong. Somebody can point that out. And if I am wrong, I'm sorry. I'm truly sorry. But for the time being, we're going to add £50,000, 50,000 points to our total and move on to the next one. And again, we're sticking with the Avios program. So number 6 is subscription services. Yes, not only can you splash out on your big spending, but utilities are included. Things like Sky, things like EE, Disney Plus, a ton of them. So if you are already subscribed or thinking of subscribing to these packages, which again can get quite expensive, include your Avios number and let's start racking those up. Once again, this is not an exact science. It's not science at all. It's just me making numbers up. The point I have to say, though, is that it really does make a huge difference depending on how much you spend. Obviously, people who can have ridiculously high utility bills across Sky TV or Virgin. You've also got mobile phone bills can be extortionate or they can be cheap. So this isn't going to apply to everyone. So I'm going to do a really, really rough estimation Going through the various options, it looks like you're probably going to get maybe 15 to 20,000 Avios, depending on what company you're with and your package and all this sort of thing. So let's be conservative and say 15,000 Avios that you're going to get from your ongoing utility and subscription bill. So, boom, we'll add that to the tally. Number seven, and this is where things get interesting. This is where business picks up. Nectar points. Yes, you can convert your Nectar points into Avios points. Nectar, of course, is the loyalty scheme of Sainsbury's. Now, the system is maybe one of the better ones out there. You obviously get a point for every pound you spend. However, each week Sainsbury's will send you a booster of Nectar points. So there'll usually be 20 offers, and these can range from minuscule, like 10, 20 points. I've had some for like 180 points. Now, I'm not going to go through all of it. I'm going to say roughly you can boost at least 1,000 points each week. So let's just do the rough average, which would be £3,750 is the average household spend on groceries. So £3,750 is 3,750 Nectar points. Now, assuming we only use half of our weekly bonuses, that takes us to 500 points. 500 times 52 weeks, roughly averages 26,000 Nectar points. And we'll also throw in a couple of those bonus offers you get. So let's round that up to say 30,000 Nectar points. So 33,750 Nectar points in total. The conversion rate is for every 400 Nectar points, you get 250 Avios points, which is a conversion rate of 0.625. So if we take that 33,750 points, we are going to convert those from the Nectar into the Avios at that exchange rate, or that percentage rate. It's going to be 21,100 Avios points. That's a rough estimation, give or take. So we'll add 21,100 to the list. One critical caveat on this is that Nectar to Avios is not a one-way street. You can convert your Avios into Nectar. That works out at 400 points into 400 Nectar points. I think, I'm not quite sure whether that works out better or not. I haven't sat down and done the maths. However, if you're, for example, maybe a little bit disillusioned or disappointed with what BA have done over the last few weeks, you are maybe setting on a ton of Avios points. One option is to remove those Avios from that system and put it into Nectar, if you so desire. In fact, all these Avios points tips, you can easily just flip them all over to Nectar and spend it on your shopping. Whatever works best for you. Of course, Nectar is just like Avios, that it's more than one company, it's more than Sainsbury's. There are a ton of other offers. If you go into their system, have a look at that, as there are good ways for you to boost your Nectar points too, with things like travel insurance, with Sainsbury's travel money, all that kind of stuff. So check those options out as well, which brings me on to the final one, the big one. This is going to move the needle big league. It won't probably come as a surprise to most of you, but it looks like the British Airways Premium Plus Amex card is going to be a major booster to this. So let's go for it. Let's see what this card can do if we consolidate everything that we spent so far. First things first, it's the signing on bonus. If you sign up and you spend £6,000 in the first 3 months, they will give you 30,000 points. No, they won't, because they got an offer on. So I had an email through. They will give you 60,000 points for spending 6 grand, which, if you've planned out the consolidated spend we discussed, shouldn't be too much of a problem. So let's add 60,000 points to our tally. It is worth adding that this offer is time sensitive, so it currently runs out at the end of February, but they may reintroduce it at some point or extend it. Now, this card has received a lot of attention lately because of BA's decision to tie tier points to purchase. We're not talking about bloody tier points. We are talking about Avios points. So, under the existing system, if you were to get one of these cards, one of these Amex cards, and consolidate your spend on that, all the spend that we've spoken about all the way right back to the beginning, then we can continue to rack up the Avios. Remember, we spent £10,000 on British Airways holidays and we added that extra £2,000 to British Airways system from incrementals and other spend. So that's £12,000 spent with British Airways directly. Now, this card gives you 3 Avios points for every pound spent with British Airways. So £12,000 times 3 is 36,000. So we're going to add 36,000 points to our total. We also discussed our spend on Christmases, big tech purchases, our weekly shop, and so on. And again, this is very rough, but let's say we're going to mash all those together, utilities or whatever. If we can stick all that on this card, then you get 1.5 Avios for every spend. So let's say we spend roughly maybe manage to put £20,000 onto this card. Boom, we have got another 30,000 Avios points. And of course, that spend is more than the threshold to get a companion voucher, so another added bonus. One thing, though, I got wrong, or I didn't get wrong, I did get wrong, but one thing I had to apologise for is I said no additional spend. I failed you, Anakin, I failed you. The Amex card has a £300 annual fee, so I've not been able to do it for you for free. But that additional £300 is pretty much the only extra spend that we're factoring in. Everything else was already either budgeted or already on the books. So if you can forgive me that little teeny weeny £300, that would be super helpful. There we have it. So we've racked up over 300,000 Avios points by not doing a huge amount. That's pretty good in terms of offsetting costs with the part payment system. As I said, this is a very rough, around the edges approach. It's giving you a few different ideas of things you can do. A huge part of this will be down to your personal situation, your personal spend, how much you can afford, what you want to do, and so on. But this is hopefully a chance to have a bit of a think about things, and anyone that is interested in either sticking with BA or trying to rack up some Avios to offset the additional costs of the new Executive Club model, hopefully that can give you a few steers going forwards. Until the next time, when I don't think I will be talking about this anymore, I will see you again soon.